Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week of the Officially Speaking, hosted this week by myself, Luke, and also
Brian.
And we, as you all know, part of the Luke Bryan tour, taking over things over here. So we're going to switch it up today. I'm going to play a little host, and we're also going to be joined today by John White, fellow collegiate umpire, as well as the umpire supervisor of the West Coast League. It's a summer league up in the Northwest. And he also is running a umpire placement course in Sarasota, Florida, starting next week.
And how many leagues does that feed now, John? If you can say, if you're able to.
We have 3 leagues that we're partnered with. We've got the West Coast League, we have the Northwest League, and the Pecos League, which is an independent professional league in the Southwest.
So we'll get to have him on the podcast and join kind of as a co-host almost today.
And then we'll double down on our fact check and reach back to the 2018 MLB postseason to take a listen to Alex Rodriguez and his thoughts on a ground rule double into the Ivy.
Another big lead and a base hit by LeMahieu, and perhaps more as that one gets all the way to the wall. Bryant puts up his hands immediately.
Blackman is going to be sent back. Buddy Black's argument, as he talks to Guccione right here, is, hey, my runner was in motion, so therefore he should get home plate. And I think Buddy Black has a great argument.
So hold on to your hats, folks, because here comes the Luke tour.
Brian. Oh, did I get it?
We are not good at this. We're going to have to try that again next week.
That might work, actually.
Before we get to that fact check and the other things we got to talk about, Brian, what in the world has been going on with you this week, and what's coming up with you?
This week has just been a lot of planning for 2 clinics coming up on February 9th and 16th. So we'll talk about them during the podcast too, but it's some wake up work on that and maybe run a Amazon Flex route, because that's my side hustle. Got to earn some money. That's kind of been it.
How have you been surviving this polar vortex that has completely taken over the country?
Oh, well, I'm in the 25% of the country that's not taken over by it. So
exactly. I myself am at home in Hollywood, Florida right now, and I'm in the other half of that 25%. Sorry for the rest of you. John is he's going to be experiencing that. I guess we'll get into that later with him.
Well, it's a freezing 55 degrees for you. It's a balmy 55 degrees for me.
Yeah, I mean, you see people walking around in their long sleeves and jackets around here, and it was 71, 72 today. So yeah, it's a chill off for us. Man, today's Thursday, and it was only 4 days ago that I was literally in the freezing cold in South Bend, Indiana, visiting the family this weekend. It was so chilly. Oh, snow.
How low did it get?
While I was there, and Liz was there as well, we never got above the teens the whole time we were there.
Oof. Now,
the day after we left is when it started dropping, and the high was like -1, -14, I believe yesterday was the high. But, yeah, it was a nice change because, man, we flew back Sunday, and we did make our flights to go back from that temperature. And then I worked my first baseball game of the season on that Monday, on January 29th. So worked Monday and Tuesday baseball, and I'm like, this is so much nicer than everybody else who's stuck indoors for the next 2 days, where people that I know where I'm from for the weather reasons. Ugh. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we don't have any baseball here, but I am going to get in the cages here with some the other instructors and see if we can get some right before we start the season.
Yeah, well, get your right ones out of the way so you can get argued with later. I get
exactly.
That. Well, cool, man. I'm glad that we're staying warm. Sorry about some of you. Yeah. We're gonna be joined here by Senior White. I'm pretty excited to do this with him today. I can't wait to meet him in person.
I'm a dad of a 4-year-old. My humor is not very advanced.
Me too. I've got Brian. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
It's a true story.
Well, for those of you who are still listening, if that's possible, this is John White joining us now. John, where are you coming to us from today?
Currently, I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I call home.
How's life in Chattanooga, Tennessee, considering the weather? Are you guys getting bombarded with all the Super Bowl snow just north of Atlanta?
We were apparently supposed to have a polar vortex that resulted in no snow, but it is cold. But I can't really complain because there's other parts of the country that are, minus 50 wind chill and things like that. So, it's beautiful weather compared to other parts of the country.
I was going to ask, what's a polar vortex mean in North Georgia / Tennessee?
8 inches would be, school would be closed for a week here, which is kind of funny.
Oh, we need 2 inches in Washington and schools are done, period. Yeah.
So as a word, Johnny boy, we're glad you're here. Do please give us a little introduction. What's your relationship to baseball?
It's kind of a long history of relationship to baseball. Spent 12 years as a fledgling minor league clubhouse manager in minor league baseball, working my way up to AAA. And then one day, a recently named Hall of Famer by the name of Lee Smith asked me when I was going to get a real job. I ended my clubhouse career after, I think, the 2012 season, and kind of got out of that. And, my wife asked me what I was going to do in baseball because I kind of really just tuned out of the game and kind of just distanced myself. And she said, well, what about umpiring? And I said, well, I'm a big guy. Maybe that could work. So I started umpiring high school baseball, and now here I am. Currently work at the NCAA level, at the Division I level, all the way down to the JUCO level. So I try to load my schedule up pretty heavy during the college season. Yeah, and I wish I became an umpire 15 years ago. So,
were you in Chattanooga this whole time?
I've lived here since, no, I moved here in December of 2006 and met my wife here in 2010 and have stayed here and made this home. So my wife is a native Tennessean. And she makes some really good sweet tea and biscuits, so that kind of sealed the deal for me to make Tennessee my permanent home. So
you guys were up in my area for a little while, weren't you?
Yeah, I lived in Gig Harbor / Oklahoma for almost a year. And Luke, did you live up in the Northwest? I guess
I would never.
Oh gosh, no.
Okay.
No, the furthest west I got, I was living in LA for a year, Redondo Beach, more specifically, for about a year. But that was my first year of being a flight attendant, and so that was a great experience. So it was awesome. Yeah. I loved the West Coast, living in the Pacific time zone while I was there, for sure.
The West Coast has a lot of things. I don't want to get off track, but I will say the times I spent spring training in Arizona, I love that football was on at like 9.
Amen.
The left side of the country is where it's at. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, apparently you just did. So other than umpiring baseball and getting a real job, as far as other projects, I understand it. You have some relationship with the West Coast League.
Last year, I've kind of developed and tried to find my footing and where I want to try to do the most work in the umpiring world. I started a collegiate umpires group, with my main purpose being instruction and job placement initially. I mean, I have other plans to further my footprint in assigning and things like that in the college game. So I was named a supervisor in another summer collegiate league, and that kind of spurned my interest in wanting to expand our business. And the West Coast League and I kind of, I guess, partnered together. We found that we were both a good fit for the mission that I'm trying to achieve and what the West Coast League is trying to achieve. So I will be providing umpires and supervising the umpires in the league starting this season.
What's the method to your madness?
Methods of the madness, the model that I think that the West Coast League has used in the last 14 seasons is using, local umpires from the regional markets where clubs are. However, the method to my madness, I guess, is we're going to place umpires that are graduates from both professional umpire schools into the West Coast League, similar to what minor league baseball does with the CPL, or Coastal Plain League for people that don't know what that means.
Right on.
So basically the West Coast League is going to kind of facilitate and be the training ground for, the next hopeful minor league umpires that minor league baseball will hopefully want to hire, if they get a season of work in the West Coast League. And they're going to work the 2 umpire system for the duration of the season and work with the same crewmate the entire season as they would should they, be offered employment into minor league baseball at the beginning of their career.
Brian, did you ever get a chance to work in the Northwoods League?
Not Northwoods, but West Coast.
Okay, well, I didn't know if before you started your minor league career, if you worked.
My first partner had Eric Underwood did a very similar thing. He went to umpire school once, got that experience in the Northwoods League, and then went back and got a job out of that. So same type of thought process, and it's kind of, I've dipped my toes in the water of the West Coast League the last couple of years, maybe 12 to 15 games. They've been looking for some kind of a different model in the last couple of years. And, John's proposal just made him think about it and made him consider, it was 2019, the right year to make that move. And I think it's going to work great. So,
yeah, for the development of umpires, I know a lot of guys that I've talked to who are now in AAA or even in the big leagues, and guys who had very long, successful careers, started out, doing something like this, Coastal Plains League, Northwoods League, or now the opportunity to go to West Coast League. That's pretty awesome. And honestly, you think about college baseball. I mean, I've not been involved for that long, but that seems to be trending away from, hey, wherever you live, you're going to work half of those seasons, that team's games. And now they're traveling a lot more and having you move around.
And I think some of the things that the West Coast League offers is a true, authentic minor league experience for the umpires that we're going to have working these games. And it's, you're not going to have that kind of hey, we know Billy, he umpires all our games. There's going to be a standardized brand that we're putting on the field that will provide professional umpiring and give these managers and players, the level of work that they deserve from umpires.
What is your guys' relationship then, Brian and John, and maybe Brian, you want to touch on this as far as the camps that are coming up here in the Northwest?
We have camps coming up for Northwest Baseball Umpires Association. That's the high school association in my area. And then I know you, John, I don't even know if we've said the name yet, but umpire placement course is what John's doing. That's going to be down in Sarasota. And that's what's going to feed into the West Coast League. And how many leagues does that feed now, John, if you can say, if you're able to?
So we have 3 leagues that we're partnered with, and we have an additional 4th league. I'm friends with the umpire supervisor with the Alaska Baseball League, and his name's Brad Polk, a former minor league umpire. And he's going to come, and he's got a few positions available in his league. But we've got the West Coast League, we have the Northwoods League, and the Pecos League, which is an independent professional league in the Southwest. And basically, the umpire placement course runs concurrent with minor league baseball's advanced course. So, I really felt, number one, very strong about trying to make the umpire placement course a very affordable option for umpires that graduate umpire school. Because as you guys know, umpire school is not cheap. However, the education you get there, I think, is well worth every penny spent and more. So, we wanted to make the course, number one, accessible, number 2, affordable. So we have our course in Florida. It's 2 days after, like I said, umpire school's over. So we want to make it as accessible as we can for umpires that they want to get. So.
And then this season, I'm excited to see how this model works in a league that I've worked, like the West Coast League, and some of these guys that come out of your camp there. That's what I've kind of honed in on as the age group that I really love to teach. Tom Kochman was a manager in the Pioneer League, and then he moved over with the with the Red Sox. I think he's in the Gulf Coast League.
Right.
He has a ton of experience, but he loves that level. He loves to teach that level of player, that age of player. And I love seeing, I have 2 guys at umpire school right now. I love seeing those guys do well and advance. And so, I hope that it'll allow me, I know we're going to work together somehow, to have a help in evaluating those umpires and then to have a part in keeping a watchful eye on the league for John too, while he's on the other side of the country, since we're on the left coast.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll be quite honest. I think that this stage in an umpire's career, fresh out of umpire school, ready to take on the world, I think this is one of the most important, steps or seasons in a young umpire's career. And so, being able to give valuable evaluations and valuable information on how they can improve every time is very key in their development and their continued development.
They're going to have that. Even if someone gets hurt and has a fill-in or something like that, whether that's me or someone else here, this change was, again, down to the model, and they wanted to try something different. So I know that all the fill-ins that I have listed can help out. All those guys are going to be a super big help to those young umpires too.
I would like to touch on that, Brian, is
Sure.
Even though there is kind of I don't want to call it a seismic shift in the footprint of umpiring for the West Coast League. I can say that, as an active umpire myself, we're not going to ignore the Pacific Northwest umpire. We want to have as many qualified umpires from the Pacific Northwest working the West Coast League. We just want to make sure they fit our brand and kind of what we're trying to do. They have a level of expectation that they want on the field, and they've entrusted me with, putting that on the field for them.
It is a good way to put it, because all three of us just got done in the last few weeks in attending our NCAA meetings, me in Phoenix and you guys in Orlando. And it's just sitting through that. It's just completely different thought process. It's a different brand on the field, and they want to situations handled a different way. That's why rules are written a different way. It's just a completely different brand. It's a good way to put it, because things need to be handled slightly differently in every league you work.
Most definitely.
I think another thing that's very important and impressive with what you're trying to do, John, incorporating the Northwest umpire as well as these typically younger gentlemen out of umpire school, is the consistency that we all want with our strike zone and everything else that the players and coaches want, is consistency in umpiring across the league. And these guys would be your guys to do that and be more fluid in what you're trying to get across as a league-wide product. So I see a lot of success in your future with this, and not that I'm an expert, but that's pretty cool. I'm excited for you.
I really appreciate that, and I'm really excited for the umpires that are going to get to work, kind of year one in this process. Because in the next, 1 to 3 seasons, the gratifying and rewarding part is going to see, umpires calling me on job day at umpire school that worked the West Coast League the year prior, and be able to say, wow, that season in the Northwest working in the West Coast League, I got the innings and got to see the pitching and work the games that I needed to work. And that's just going to create more umpires to want to come to the Northwest and kind of chase that dream of reaching professional baseball. And the West Coast League can be a vehicle for that.
I skipped rookie ball and I went into the Pioneer League. I wish I would have got that extra year in rookie ball, just to, it's not a ton of travel or anything like that, but it is an extra year experience under your belt. And a lot of guys just want to push and it doesn't matter, high school, association, college, whatever it is, they want to push, and sometimes push too fast. And sometimes it's nice to just sit back and get that experience. And
yeah, and there's a lot of different avenues that, an umpire school graduate can take to get that work in. There are, whether you want to go work in, independent professional baseball, there are other really qualified avenues to go do that. For one is Puck. Kevin Wynn and Ron Teague run a great operation putting umpires into both of those independent leagues, and that's an avenue you can take. Another avenue you can take is to come and try to work in the West Coast League or the Northwoods League. I think having that year to kind of really see, number one, do I want to work in professional baseball? Doing it in a summer collegiate atmosphere and see if you're cut for it. It gives you the arena to develop and be aggressive and make the mistakes that you need to make to learn. So I think there's a lot of great options, and I really felt strongly about the West Coast League and the other leagues that we've partnered with to kind of hopefully provide those opportunities.
I just have to imagine these guys coming up here, getting a travel season under their belt, and obviously I'll do anything I can to give them information on heading back to umpire school. I just think it's going to be a great setup.
What was your running into Brian, or how did you and Brian meet for the first time? I know I'll cut ahead of him and say Brian introduced me to you, so to speak, and we were to meet at the Orlando NCAA meetings, and didn't know who I was.
It was a little crazy that day.
It was, but then we had a chance to talk on the phone before earlier this week. And so, how did you and Brian meet, and how did you guys come to get to know each other?
I'm going to let Brian answer that.
You still don't know who he is, do you?
Well, I knew of Brian because he had a nice profile when he was in the game. So it was kind of good to kind of learn about your journey, kind of up the ladder in minor league baseball. But I'll let you speak on how we met.
I believe you just initially reached out on just a Facebook DM or something like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
One of the guys who's working for you, Ben Engstrand, his dad, Rex Engstrand, had reached out to me. They thought that I was running the course, and I said, nope, that's not me, but let me find out who that is, and I'll be glad to get you his information. So yeah. I just looked up umpire placement course, found John White, gave him his information and said, good luck to you. Yeah. But I got the opportunity to work with Ben's dad last year, filling in for an Orioles AAA game.
Okay.
And yeah, so we got to work together, and he was so excited. I remember that feeling out of my dad. And then I believe Ben's just coming off of instructing at Harry's as well, isn't he?
Yeah, this is week 5 at the Wendelstedt Umpire School, and this is his first year on staff at the Wendelstedt School.
I kind of knew your name then because I had seen a couple umpire placement course things pop up. I followed you on Instagram, I think, and then when Ben reached out, that forced me to actually look up your name and know who was involved with umpire placement course. And then when you reached out, I actually already knew it because I just sent someone your way. So,
Brian, did you want to touch on your clinics at all for what's upcoming? Yeah,
well, it's going to be pretty fun. I don't want to get too much out of the bag because I don't know exactly what's nailed down yet, but we should
give us a teaser.
Yeah, we should have a couple few media personnel involved, and I'm really excited because it's more than just they're going to come cover the clinic, and which for me means then covering the official shortage and stuff like that. But they actually want to get dressed up. They want to see live pitching. So I'm having to email them and say, hey, don't forget, you need a cup. There's certain things that I just can't provide you with. So I'm hoping that's going to turn out and be real fun. One of them wants to ring their drone so he can drone himself and see how, pit himself against one of the other guys, one of the college guys there or whatever. But he wants that side view, the overhead view. It could just be crazy. And Luke, you know what that means for me? It means I get to have my drone up, droning himself. So that's just fun for me,
I can already see the headlines.
Yeah. This whole thing blows my mind. I hope this happens. I know you know that, Luke. But
with Brian's piloting skills, it'll be first camper killed by drone.
No, that's.
Well, you've already droned. How many drones have you droned?
I've already killed 2 drones. But the things I ran into are just fine. The pool is still there and the ocean is still there. So I haven't heard anything else.
You are having waivers signed, right, by the attendees, right?
Yes, I am.
Ooh. And John, I had a stupid question for you. Your camp, or not camp, but your placement clinic.
Yes.
Is that exclusively to guys out of umpire school, or if there's any guys who are interested in traveling or in doing this that they can sign up and take part?
Yeah, with some of our partner leagues, we are actively seeking active collegiate umpires or umpires that have worked in independent professional baseball. So no, it is not only exclusive to umpire school graduates. If you've umpired, a significant amount of college baseball or have worked in Indy Pro Ball, that type of umpire would be a fit for us as well.
Brian, for your classes and clinics, are you guys sold out already, or what are your dates? And if somebody still is thinking about trying to involved with what you're doing.
So the NBUA membership, they just need to respond to. They all got an email from the training committee, and they just need to respond with what date they want to hit. But they did just open it up to other associations in the area too. I'm sure we can still accommodate more. I know it's not fully sold out, but I still want to maintain that student instructor ratio.
Absolutely, get more bang for your buck.
Gosh, sorry, can't catch my breath today.
It's the polar vortex in the Northwest.
It was.
I'll tell you what. Polar vortex
me and my
in
morning
Florida.
workouts, Luke.
Oh, yeah. The 10:30 alarm comes early, man. I get it.
Yeah.
Beautiful, gentlemen. I tell you, John, it sure is a pleasure having you on board with us this week. We're definitely going to have to get you on for a more in-depth interview. Clubhouse Club A2. Now, umpire supervisor extraordinaire.
I was once named by a former major league player when I was in AAA as a professional jock washer. I'm not going to name the player's name because we know what happens in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse. But I've always found that as an endearing job title. So, I would love to talk about the clubhouse days anytime you guys would love to have a chat. I'm sure you guys have some good stories too.
Oh, that's tremendous.
John had Tripp when he came through. Where were you at that time, John?
I was in the Southern League from 2007 to 2010. I had Tripp was there. Will Little came through. Jordan Baker came through.
What team were you with during?
I was with the Chattanooga Lookouts. I was the home and visiting clubhouse manager, as well as the umpires. So I was there, the Philip Wellman Brent Rice game. I was there through 4 hard years with the Lookouts. Lean years is the best way to say it. But it was an experience of a lifetime, and I mean Chattanooga's home to me.
Chattanooga, is that the affiliation with the Reds at that time? Yeah,
and they're actually back with the Cincinnati Reds now. So it's kind of we were with the Reds for a few of those seasons, and then with the Dodgers, and now they're back with the Reds now. Yeah.
What team is it? The Tennessee Smokies? Are they like in Gatlinburg area?
Yeah, they are definitely near Gatlinburg.
Okay. All those guys you just mentioned, I watched those guys along with Quinn Walcott.
Quinn is another guy. Yeah, how can I forget Quinn?
Those 4 guys worked a playoff game that I was watching as I was driving through. Again, on my way home from my season, maybe in the Florida State League or something.
Those years when I was in the Southern League were pretty loaded up with umpire. I'd say there were some really good umpires that came through.
Yeah, the 2006 class, if I might say, it was pretty strengthy. So
desperate times, desperate measures.
I was in the Texas League that year in 2006.
Okay.
Oh, were you?
I was really not in tune with umpiring at all at that. Like, that was not even a thought to me. They were just guys that came in every 3 or 4 days, and I gave them baseballs and left.
Where were you at?
I was in Wichita at the time.
Not there anymore.
No, but they're going back. They've got a team that they're putting an affiliated club in there again. Yeah.
Wow.
With a new ballpark. But yeah, I kind of remember that 06 phase, and I
2006 opening day, Wichita. It was snowed out or frozen out. Barry Larson was your crew chief. I don't know who the 2 young guys were. I don't think the guys are still in the game anymore. Well, I know they're not in the game. They'd be in the bigs, so they'd be out. But I went and saw that game and watched Luke Hochaver pitch opening day, and it was just some old guy scout, his wife or girlfriend, and one of her friends. We were the only 4 people in the stands that day. And I show up in the locker room after the game in between. I don't know if they played a doubleheader that day. I think it was just 1 game. And I show up, and they thought I was Andy Schultz, the new supervisor. Come and check him out. I introduced myself. Hey, I'm Luke Hamilton. I'm going to go to the Gulf Coast League. Or maybe I was just going to go to umpire school. That's what it was. That's right. And so they're like, oh, we thought you were Andy Schultz. Okay. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, how to do that.
And Andy is an excellent guy, by the way. Does an excellent job at the academy.
I had Andy for an evaluator in the Texas League myself. He is something fun. I've got to see him the last few years at the winter meetings.
Yeah,
he's getting back into college too, right?
He is. He just started last year with me. Yeah. And nobody has anything bad to say about Andy Schultz. He's just a man amongst men. I mean, the guy's just stand out. He was my first evaluation as well in the Gulf Coast League. So from an Andy Schultz lookalike to ex-minor league umpire to getting back in with Andy Schultz in collegiate level. It all comes full circle, boys.
There you go.
Your ump course on Facebook and Instagram, right? But do you have more? That's where I follow you. But do you have more than that?
Yeah, our website, if anyone wants more information on possibly attending our 2019 session, which kicks off next Tuesday in Sarasota, Florida, our website is umpcourse.com.
Okay.
And then we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's Ump Course. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. So that's how you can get a hold of us and see if we can kind of help you on a path to working summer collegiate baseball or possibly going to umpire school in the future.
And do you have time to stick around to help us with this fact check here coming up next?
Time. Yep.
Okay. So this week we wanted to keep up with the fact check theme and reach all the way back to the 2018 MLB postseason once again and listen in on Alex Rodriguez.
Another big lead and a base hit by LeMahieu, and perhaps more as that one gets all the way to the wall. Bryant puts up his hands immediately. That ball never came out.
And it saved the run for the Cubbies, potentially. Let's see how they play it.
Boy, this is an interesting moment already. This wild card game is 2 at-bats old, and you can see the left field umpire, Trip Gibson, go out there. We'll take a look at it again.
Now, Blackman is going to be sent back. Buddy Black's argument, as he talks to Guccione right here, is, hey, my runner was in motion, so therefore he should get home plate. and they're saying no. That's the question, Matt. And I think Buddy Black has a great argument.
He does.
I don't know if there's anywhere in the OBR or NCAA rulebook that says in motion.
I mean, as an umpire, you know what rule he's thinking of, right?
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that he says in motion.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be honest. A-Rod, I've had him on a flight. He's a very funny and intelligent man, and he knows a lot about baseball. I think he does a great job on TV. I really do. I'm not trying.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
getting
agree
any favors
completely.
from that. He gives a good insight to the game. I don't believe that A-Rod in this situation is thinking like a catcher's interference or anything like that. I don't think A-Rod thinks rules. No offense to A-Rod. That's not a slight to him or anything of his character and caliber of person. But, I mean, what I like about this situation, to work in 6-man, better than a 4-man, or in our case, I remember at umpire school, we've been working 2-man, and you have a situation like this that I am sure Tripp goes out there to confirm that the ball is out of play before he kills it or anything like that and awards 2 bases at time of pitch. And that is something that I think is a huge umpiring note that I think a lot of guys just assume as soon as an outfielder throws their hands up, they call time and just trust the fielder. And then the fielder sometimes picks up the ball and you're like, uh-oh, too late.
Because there's still a second step to that process once the fielder puts his hands up.
Correct.
Yeah,
you have to confirm the ball is out of play, that you're umpiring the whole play. So obviously hats off to Tripp. He's a big leaguer, but I don't care what level you work. We all can mess that up at times.
I've always thought that he was just thinking of that part of the rule book. So do you just think that he just has this in his head that someone in motion should have been awarded another base?
If the debate is what A-Rod is thinking, I would put money on the fact that he doesn't think rule book when he first thinks. I think a lot of times as people listen on TV and they're not sure of the rule and they're uncertain and things of that nature, people have a tendency to question authority and question the umpire. So it's almost like the umpire is wrong until the announcer says he's right.
Until proven right.
So in this case, we've talked about it before, but the announcers kind of question him and like, oh, well, that's what Bud Black has a great case. Well, I mean, by rule book knowledge, he doesn't have a case at all because it's time of pitch.
It's just a simple ground rule double. So there is no argument here actually whatsoever. There are 1 base awards, 2 base awards. There's 1 3-base award in the book, but probably never see it. But the 1 and 2 base awards, those are all going to be from the time of the pitch or from the time of the. Those are all going to be from the time of the pitch or from the time of the infraction or from the time it went out of play. And this is a very simple. It's exactly the same as a ground rule double. It is a ground rule double.
You have to be sharp on the rules. That's why it's important to be in and understand and know what the situation is before you get too excited and start awarding people home runs on balls to the ivy. Well, I must say that was pretty cool having John co-host with us today. I really thoroughly enjoyed that.
It was. Love talking with him. His course is starts next week on February 5th for this year in Sarasota.
And if people haven't already and want to check us out,
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter ourselves. So that's very simple. Nobody had the name, shockingly, so it's the same. Just at Luke Bryan Tour. Just make sure you spell Brian right with an I.
No, thanks everybody for joining us. It sure was fun having you on board. Look forward to hopefully seeing you around next week. And I hope that you guys are able to warm up. For those of you who are in decent weathered places, I know for myself, I'm working my first real baseball game of the season tomorrow, so that's always a fun time of the year.
And because we never take ourselves too seriously here, here's an outtake from last week's episode to play you off.
Doing what we do. That's what I was hoping I just did. You want me to do it again?
Right now?
No, I just did it.
I don't know.
All right, we'll try it again.
This should be the podcast. But I don't know. I thought I did. I don't know.
What'd you have on the plate?
Maybe. Could
Mark.
be. I don't know. Mark.